The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds. Come to know and find out what is truth, yes. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening minds.
Happy Holy Day, Moors. Welcome to House of Reawakening Minds. House of Reawakening Minds exists to provide for the exploration and practice of spirituality in an enlightened community dedicated to honoring the myriad of sacred pathways to the universal creator. We are a holistic center for spiritual grounding, free thought, self-discovery, and Moorish science, and awakening experience for all ages. Tonight, I am pleased to present to you our National Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey as he presents U.S. Unam Sanctum Bishopric's Tax Wars Unraveling. But before he comes, please be sure to like, share, and if you have not already done so, subscribe to our channel. Now, let's receive Grand Sheik Taj Tarik Bey. Welcome, Grand Sheik.
Islam, Dr. J.
Islam, I'm going to bow out. I'm not going to be on, I'm going to kind of be in the background, but we're trying something new. We're putting ourselves in two different locations. And right now, you are in the location of where you did some beautiful work. And I am going to kind of be in the background and I'll come back on a little bit later. But thank you so much for all that you do, how that you teach us, all that you bring to this universal platform. So with that, Grand Sheik, it's on you.
All right, Islam, assalamu alaikum, shalom, vadi mekum. I wanted to have a general conversation with the people on our land here at the Maghreb, as well as from other political jurisdictions around the world, for their continued support of the House of Reawakening Minds and Moore's Order of the Round Table and the work that we've been doing over the years. Because as you already know, that people among our own who have been compromised in many ways, we won't call them sellouts, we'll just say compromised, have been opposing the reclamation of the estate to the rightful heirs of the land, the people of the land at the Maghreb. And so I want to thank many of the conscious Moors and others who over the last, particularly, say the last 15 years, who have been issuing for the public record and for public display the proclamations and claim of estate documents, which in their nature are in fact reversion of estate instruments. In doing so, you must be credited with killing a lot of the straw man bottomry instruments that have been operatively at the basis of the economic system for the private human traffickers whose corporate entity is known as and styled as the United States Corporation Company, which went bankrupt again 2013 and 2018, and they settled in 2019, etc. And I want to remind you all that whenever you're making reference to the United States, remember at all times that you're talking about a private, foreign, for-profit human trafficking corporation registered in Austria, operating organizationally from both Fleet Street, England, and Davos, Switzerland. And those are the realities. And for many of you who have been studying and have been working honestly for the restoration of the estates of the people of the land, etc., thanks go out to you, respect goes out to you, and acknowledgement for your due diligence and your consistency in recognizing the heirship of the Aboriginal people of the land, etc. And in doing so, recognize that many of the bottomry instruments that many people were trying to sell you processes for, claiming, etc., i.e., the different strawman instruments, etc., that on their face and as an instrument of trade, they are dead in the water. And as we've been telling people, for these many years, that the hybrid Europeans who have been operating United States Corporation Company within their jurisdiction and with their bottomry instruments, that they would never allow the people to capture the straw man by whatever means that they had control of, i.e., such instrumentalities or processes that have been sold among the people, like the UCC financial statements, the acclamation of the birth certificate, etc., for sale to the people to try to reclaim their lost estates, etc., knowing that those bottomry instruments have been used to back the private corporate debt of the owners of the United States Corporation Company. Those instrumentalities are dead in the water. And the nations of the earth are no longer accepting them as backup for their reserve currencies, etc., that have been imposed by the private Jesuit orders, Federal Reserve notes of debt, etc. And thus, it has interrupted the trade systems on the planet in these last couple of years. And keep in mind the many methods that they're doing to instill fear upon the people and to create all kind of economic havoc. It is because that their instrumentalities are dead in the water. And this is why we've been telling people for years that they will not allow you to capture the straw man. What you must do is face the straw man and choke it. And your activities are acknowledged over the years because what you have done has choked the straw man, and those instrumentalities are dead. And so as the owners, the foreign owners of the United States Corporation Company have been for the last century or so heavily successful in their human trafficking trade, those instrumentalities, even though they've been duplicating them and they have been creating what you call double ledger bookkeeping, etc., and that they have used their Inquisition Revenue Services operations, known commonly to the people as the IRS, as a war machine against the Aboriginal people on the land, gentrifying the land, gentrifying the people, etc., and in effect enforcing their Unam Sanctum genocide operations that never ended. Because they're on the tail end of their operations, they are doing different things to the people to continue misery upon the people. So recognize where that's coming from. And as we've been telling you over the years, put aside and start focusing on, say, dry goods and good stuff that you can do to maintain your family as far as foodstuffs are concerned. Because as Prophet Noble Ali warned us all years ago, that the hybrid Europeans would be trying to starve us out. That is their intention. Keep that in mind. In order to impose their position of what they would call the hegemony of the hybrid Occidental operations, falsely referred to as white supremacy. And while it is broken up, for the most part, it is not yet dissolved. It is in a state of dissolution and is in a state of being dismantled but it's important for the people themselves to continue to reject Rome's operations on our land, and recognizing that their United States operations is a political jurisdiction and is not actually the land. So always when you're making reference to the United States, always refer to the United States Corporation Company as what it is, a foreign, defunct, private, human trafficking for profit corporation that is bankrupt. And when you make references, many of you over the years we've shared with you one of their latest of their filings of their corporation at Florida, and you will look at the three names of the hybrid Europeans who signed it, and those would be the owners of the United States Corporation Company, and that would execute as what is known as political secession, i.e., and so their secession of inheritance for that corporation would be those persons who are part of the corporate operations, i.e., that's called corporate secession. And so they've been operating their corporate secession as an interregnum governing body, faking the people, continuing their fakery in order to maintain their corruption on our land here, and executing and exporting their operations abroad. And so you must always keep remembering that America is the land and not the corporation, although they use the word America in their private corporation, their foreign corporation. Don't confuse American as the pedigree or bloodline of the people, etc., because one, they're not Americans. Two, they've been falsely presenting themselves as Americans so that people would not question their operations that were actually being executed right before your faces. And so keep that in mind at all times. But again, all of your activities that have been executed in these last 35, 40 years more have essentially killed the straw man operations. Although they are continuing their oppression of the Aboriginal people, keep in mind that the backbone of their operations is broken. And it is important for the people of the land to use this time to do as much as they can, much as you can, to restore your families and to reconstruct the principles and the customs of your ancient mothers and fathers back onto the land. And keep in mind at all times, as we've always told you, you must be very clear on the issues of the different areas of jurisdiction, whether in personam jurisdiction dealing with the physical being, the subject matter jurisdictions dealing with subject matters of different types of authority dealing with things, etc., and then territorial jurisdiction, which deals with the land areas and their political jurisdictions operating in the lands, and then the constitutions and treaties which are in place to limit or to regulate the jurisdictional or civil operations on the land, etc., on the sea and in the air of the different geographical territories on the land, or in relationship to quote unquote nation states, whether under occupation or whether operating in what is known as a sovereign capacity, all of which have been breached continuously. So keep that in mind. And also remember, when any of these beings are claiming authority whatsoever, know that they are well aware that their position is colored and their position is fraudulent and their position is fictional and their positions are de facto. So whenever you're communicating with them in any form or format, recognize that you're dealing with a fundamentally de facto platform concerning them. And your approach should be from that perspective. In relationship also to the different territories on the land and the people of the land, and anyone who have been claiming on any level anything concerning nations or tribes and the different clans, have a responsibility to inform the people of the political conditions that have been operating on our land for all these last few hundred years, and that their obligations to the people is to do the best they can to clear up the misconceptions and to encourage people to take the responsibility to restore their lost estates. And keep in mind, it cannot be emphasized enough that when Raleigh set up or encouraged the Moors to make what you know as public proclamations and declarations of their nationality or their nativity, we're not making reference to the corporate operations of the political jurisdictions of the Europeans. We're making reference to their political obligations to those political platforms that are rooted in principles that acknowledge and protect the organic and separate, i.e. unincorporated birthrights of the people. And that's the area that we have been directing the people to move toward. And as you all know, over the years, we've always told you that some of the things that we were doing then, we will not be doing later. And that is based on the principle that knowing that if the people begin to become active and continued to push out instrumentalities into the public domain that declared their right of a state, absent of the corporate United States Corporation Company or subordinate franchisees and states of entities, that over time it would have a severe effect on the bottomry instruments, which are at the foundation of the stock market, run from Wall Street, etc., New York. And just to inform you, on many levels, those activities have brought about the proper effect of the people demonstrating in the public arena that they do not consent to the hybrid operatives of the United States Corporation Company to use them, nor their bodies, nor their families, nor their land as surety for their private, falsely and fraudulently created debts, and that such debts claimed by them don't exist upon the people. They exist only upon them and their private corporation, and are not to be confused with the false presentment that they have been practicing, making reference to alleged national debt on the people. Because the fact of the matter is that the United States Corporation Company is not a nation. It's a private human trafficking for-profit corporation that is defunct and has expired, etc. So whenever you're having any political discussions, keep that in mind. And many of you know, around 4 years ago, and actually slightly before he was put in that de facto office, I would mention to the people that Donald Trump was assigned. And what I'm talking about is that he was assigned among themselves and part of the military operations to do what he is able as a spokesman. And keep in mind, much of what Donald Trump is presenting in the public forum is not in relationship to the nation, i.e. the people of the land. It is in relationship to their obligations by treaties and by constitution, although all of it has been breached and they have no authority to reestablish any activity on the land whatsoever. However, by his activity, he's exposing the system that we've been telling you about for all these decades, that many people among our own have been trying to blind you to, or trying to imply that we were telling you falsehoods, when they knew that many of them have actually been participants also with members of the United States Corporation of Human Trafficking Company, and have been beneficiaries of the fraud. So back to the point, when Drew Ali said, be careful, Moors, some of your own brothers and sisters wearing turbans and fezzes will be trying to put you back into slavery. That's what he's making mention of. So, and also for those of you who are in any of the temples at North America and in the other political jurisdictions around the world, keep in mind why he did what is known as the additional bylaws in the back pages of the questionnaire for Moorish children, whereas he made mention again of the robbers among us. And they've been having quite a profitable time since 1929, and they got rid of Noble Drew Ali by agreed corporate assassination, which they also covered up, etc., and had the intent and thoughts that they were going to be successful and that no one would come to counter them. Well, they underestimated. And many of them understand and know and comprehend and understand that man does not die. We only transform. And so the deal of it is, their game is up. However, because the people have been damaged with psychic attacks for so many generations, and they've been held under and groomed under MK Ultra operations for so many generations, under the General Education Board set up by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates in 1902, which we've been telling you all for decades about, etc. We have difficulty bringing our people to a state of mind whereas they should be and shall be competent to reclaim their lost estates and know what the estate is, etc., distinguished from assumed positions set forth by members of the Circle Church and Chancery, etc., who have been controlling both the educational systems, the corporate operative agencies, etc., the financial systems, etc., the church, and also all of the judicial civil operations that the people have been wrongfully and without their knowledge wrongfully calling courts, and then using those platforms to actually transfer the estates of the Aboriginal people into the U.S. corporation companies' jurisdiction, and thus, under that pretext and fraudulent operations, they've been using that foundation of Unam Sanctum to gentrify all of your communities. And so keep in mind when we go over history in contemporary times, and then you look at all the cities of the Aboriginal people here at North America, and the constant pattern of contaminations of waters and flooding, etc., in order to destroy areas, and so-called federal grants for urban renewal, etc., whereas they were systematically tearing down the communities where our people had any economic stability, etc., that those days and those times are now being brought to an end. And it has much to do with your consciousness and your active proclaiming your right of estate into the public domain and to the public records, etc. And again, as we said before, much of what you were doing in the past, you will not be doing later. Meaning you need to look at things, etc., on a cause and effect basis and comprehend that certain areas of the intended work has actually been done and completed. And some of the things are no longer necessary. However, you must expand your minds in the areas of a state, knowing that a state includes both not just the aggregate land, but all your hereditaments, corporal and incorporeal, and all of your liberties, etc., and your customs and traditions. And this is another reason why the members of the Circle Church and Chancery have been consistently projecting misinformation out to the people, encouraging them to reject and hate many of the symbolisms that are actually belong to them. Many of the tools and the customs, etc., that are used in many of the secret societies did not begin with them, but are actually of the Aboriginal people of the land, etc., and have been corrupted by them. And this is the reason why we've always told people over the years, even in the more recent years, that when you look at those political activities that are taking place between the members of the Whiggamore Party, known as the Republicans and the Democrats, that you don't take sides, you observe them, because they're fighting over your estate. However, recognize that Donald Trump was put in place to actually expose a lot of this. And it doesn't mean that you support him or you look to him as, i.e., some savior, because that's not true and that's not going to happen. And that's not what the position is. The position is that he was put in position to try to preserve a little bit of whatever integrity, which was very little to none, that was left among them, to save some of the resources that they have been controlling that don't belong to them in the Western Hemisphere, etc., at the Maghreb, etc. And they're still operating under the banner of the United States, etc. But they're talking about the Republic platform that was overthrown in 1861. And then they talk about the Act of England, also known as the Organic Act of Congress 1871, and the setup of the demon platforms of the human traffickers known as the Democratic Party, etc., being the U.S. democracy operations, which is actually the Unam Sanctum operations, which never ended, etc. That's why the U.S., which is used commonly in their political dispensations, they will say 1 minute within a sentence of any what you call informational dialogue, and they will say the United States in one sentence, and then the next sentence they will say U.S., etc. But when they're saying U.S., we keep in mind that they're talking Unam Sanctum. Unam Sanctum is the U.S., and that's their political operations, that's their code book, that's their byline, that's their manual for operations, etc., not only at the Maghreb, North America, but exported around the world, and is at the basis of all the wars in your contemporary times, etc., all of the famines of your contemporary times, all of your floodings of cities where, or areas where the Aboriginal people had any progressive activities, which would include Tulsa, Oklahoma, which would include New Orleans, etc. None of these are new, which would include North Carolina, Alabama, all over the place, including the poisoning of the water in Detroit, Michigan, in Flint, Michigan, etc. All of the major trading areas, including the deliberate setup of the military operations for creating cancers among the Aboriginal people, and particularly done knowingly with fluoride put in both the water and put in toothpaste, because fluoride is known by them as a chemical agent that creates cancer faster than any other chemical. I repeat, fluoride creates cancers quicker than any other chemical operations that are used commonly by the people, which is why the municipal operators of the municipal corporations put it in the water, put fluoride in the water. And this is why the members or the board of directors, known as congressmen and senators, have sanctioned for the corporations to sell fluoride to the people through toothpaste, for they themselves are part of the Unam Sanctum or U.S. operations. However, in continuance of the general nature of our conversation tonight, that the people becoming more and more conscious of the demon activities of the members of the U.S. corporation company, that they are less able to continue their operations. Therefore, it is important for you to continue your reversion of estate activities, etc., to reject them as their platforms are being dismantled. Because keep in mind, they only have jurisdiction and power because you've been giving it to them. Pardon me, because you are the rightful heirs of the land, the people of the land, and they've been doing under their fake Holy See operations, putting you under the Admiralty maritime jurisdiction, claiming you to be dead at sea. And by many of you over the years declaring your nationality and saying it for the public domain, the public record, you was actually killing their bottomry instruments. So understand the political purpose of nationalization. And keep in mind, as Juali said, nationality is free. It cannot be bought or sold. So people can't sell nationality because it is unalienable, or what is known commonly as unalienable. Unalienable means there can be no lien on it. And this is why anything that was done legitimately with the establishment of the Moorish Divine and National Movement for the restoration of the Moabites, Canaanites, Kemetans, etc., Phoenicians of the Maghreb, i.e. collectively known as Moors, distinguishing all of the Aboriginal tribes in the Western Hemisphere from the others around the world, because we're all over the planet. That Moorish American moniker, political jurisdiction was created in order to establish a clarity of the real heirs of the land of the Maghreb. And they have called us Indians, etc. Understand that is a tag also that was created to compromise the Moors of the land, thinking that they were going to become sovereign when they claimed to be Indians, although we are the indigenous and Aboriginal people. Keep in mind, and just like they've called us many other things, so this is why when you start looking and doing any research, and they started talking about the different treaties and the political jurisdictions, etc., of the Aboriginal people, that they would bunch the Moorish treaties and the so-called Indian treaties together, etc., in the same category, because we're actually one and the same, except that Moors are short for the Hittite, Canaanite, Moabite peoples of the land, i.e. the ancient Phoenicians, who are the first people of the land, which Ab means the first people, or the people, Aboriginal people of the land. The Aboriginal rightful heirs of the land are the true Americans, Al-Moroccans, etc., or sometimes referred to as descendants of Moroccans at the Maghreb, etc. So make that clear distinction that when we say more, we're talking all of the different tribes. That does not eliminate the fact and the reality that we have traders among our own, and that we have Moors who have been trading our people and hybrid Europeans too, and have been hiding within their venues of the hybrid secret societies, etc., to do their dirt. And this is another reason why it's important for all of these things to be revealed to the people, so that they can be more disciplined and that they will be diligent in their activities of the restoration of their lost estate. And I say this, that you're well on your way, but don't put your guard down because you still got enemies all around you. Now, was there some questions about that, Dr. G?
Well, there are quite a few comments, and I've just been letting them run. They may not be. I know you don't see them, and so the let me just see if they're.
Yeah, I just want to remind you all that when we're doing these sessions at the House of Reawakening Minds, that for the most part, I don't have the comments or responses before me on my end. And,
well, you actually do today, but I didn't show you how to.
Yeah, but I'm just saying most of the time I don't try to read them and take care of business at the same time.
Yeah, well, we have there is someone in the chat that's quite I guess bent, if you would say, on the painting you as an enemy. He's done exposés on you, on me, and I feel
that's fine.
I wasn't even going to address this, but I will say this to since we're on here, that anyone who has to build their platform, what they offer, what they call an offering to the public, on trying to destroy and discredit others, really has a very weak platform. I believe that everyone has an opportunity with social media to speak their piece, to talk about whatever the Most High has put on their heart, or whatever they feel creatively able to deliver. But when 99.9% of somebody's offering is just a downright smear tactics against others, then that's a really sad platform, very weak platform. And they might turn around and try to smear me again, because they already have. But just the fact that you are and have been consistently doing what you've been doing for so many years, some folks are finding it hard. For instance, so let's go back to 2 weeks ago, to wrap their mind around the fact that you were on the platform with Brother Rod Hayes. And now, for some, not all, because I've gotten a lot of comments that were very positive we've received with regard to seeing you two on together. But then you have those who are still trying to call it that acquiescence on your part, that you have
Brother Rod has more guts and integrity than most any of these people that's been coming on any of these platforms. And the deal of it is, people expect it, or sometimes they expect people to come with the truth in some kind of a package or image that they prefer. Well, guess what? Truth don't arise that way. Now look at this, Dr. G.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all these people who've been claiming to be Moors and Indians and Aboriginal people, and they've done nothing but the same pattern that you see, become destructive and divisive.
Right.
And so when Brother Rod came on the scene, he ain't taking no quarters. He's not playing with them, and it makes very many of them uncomfortable. And so they want this image, or they want me or other people to support certain images of people that they would accept. Let's look at this truth. Almost 90% of the people who have been betraying Noble Drew Ali and betraying the Moorish Divine and National Movement for the restoration of the estate of the proper heirs have been well-dressed, talk good, play good members of the temples with turbans and fezzes on, which is what a lot of these people expect. And so when Rod came on and started telling the truth about a lot of things, he doesn't fit the image that they like, etc. And they don't know the difference between image and substance. And Brother Rod always brings substance, and he doesn't play with them, because this is not a time for playing. For the traitors among us have showed their hand for generations. and many of their minions continue to do so. However,
Right.
however,
Yes.
like I said to you before, I don't even entertain them because I already know in due time, as the people find out who they've been really working for and the damage that they've actually done, they're going to have to answer not to us, they're going to have to answer to the people.
And that's exactly what, because you're not looking, you don't see what's going on. And the reason why I did not block you, new more order, is because I'm allowing you to say what it is you say, because the folks are going to have to make their decision based on what is presented here about the validity of what you're saying. You are sad. You are a very, very, very sad person. Yeah, you're a person. And I don't know why you don't get a real platform and start doing something for the people, and just instead of trying to break folks down. No one is ever, I didn't even know who you were until I saw, something you did about me and Rise of the Moors and Grand Sheik and all that. I saw that. And my first mind, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I never may get a chance to talk. I don't think I'll get a chance to talk to you in person, New More Order. I know what you look like because I've seen, but I would not suggest that any of you go to his page. Do not support him. He is just what he's proven himself to be on my platform here. But I'm just you could call, I don't look like anybody's man, baby. I'm a 67-year-old good looking woman. So you can stop that. You can stop. You so stupid that you sitting in here talking. Now you talking out your neck. You're really talking out your hind parts. You just pulling out. Yeah, no, I'm just saying he's talking stupid stuff. But I want to say to him in a very mature way. Matter of fact, I have a 51-year-old son, right, who will whip your butt. You know what I mean? And a 47-year-old and a 41. But I don't need them to do that, because you are kicking your own butt with the stupidity that you are coming on this platform and you're disrupted. When I do block you, your comments will be gone. But I wanted everybody to see, right? I want everybody to see what you are, and I want them not to go to your New More Order channel, because you are a butthole and you don't need their support. They don't even need to see the stuff you put. Get a real platform. Do some real work. Do some real good for the Moorish community. If you really care about you just mad because of the time you spent in prison. I ain't had nothing to do with that. I've supported brothers like you who was in the belly of the beast for years. I did that when I was a pastor, contrary to the thing that you tried to put out, that I'm running a church. That stuff that you pulled up on your channel about praise to the king and what I'm doing, that's an old post that my staff put in about 18 years ago. We've never changed it. I forgot all about it. And if it was updated in 2022, I'm just setting the record straight, we didn't do it because we have not been operating like that. It's me. We did not update anything. That maybe the website updated itself in 2022, but you don't know what you're talking about, right? So you're sick. You need to get a life. I'm not going to have you on my show. Your ass is on the show right now, making an ass of yourself. And I'm not coming on yours, and you don't need to. You on my channel. I don't ever go into your channel or any of the other people and put any negativity. I never do that. Something is wrong with you, right? So I let that get to me for just a minute a few weeks ago when I saw that post. And then I realized that anybody, Grand Sheik, that knows you and knows me, they know better than that stuff. He had like 300 and some subscribers, and he's, posting stuff. And everything he does, he's screenshotting stuff that we've already done so that he can make a platform to attract people to his channel. Do not support this person. Do not support him. He is an asshole. That's exactly what you are. You do not need to be supported. Come back when you have something constructive to offer to the community. Right now, you ain't nothing. You ain't nobody but an angry black man that spent time in the belly of the beast for something you probably deserve to be in there for anyway. Because if you learn something, you would come out of here and act like you had some sense. And that's what I got to say about you. So people know that, so whatever you're going to put on about me, fine. But folks that know Grand Sheik and know me know that that's total BS. That is total BS. I'm not going to let you change who I am. But I'm, you going, like I said, you're going to be ignorant. You go and call me a man, Kaj a woman, somebody. You the one that's probably has somebody's balls on your chin because you was in prison. So you know about that. You probably had that. I've seen your comments. I'm looking at your comments. You're sad. Get a life. Now, with that said, like you said early on, you said block me. Guess what? And I know you're going to come back to something else, but guess what? I'm blocking you now. Now we can continue. I love y'all. Grand Sheik, let me see if there's any questions or anything that you can really answer. But I had to address him because he started out right from the beginning. Like I said, he's the one that did the video, said that I'm trying to get folks money to take care of my church and everything. And everybody that knows me knows my testimony, that I was a pastor and apostle until the beginning of 2011, right? So I don't care what he puts up there. If, whatever he puts up there, lies and innuendo. Folks have been to the House of Reawakening Minds, know exactly what's going on there. So, we're going to be continuing on. We hope to be doing some more things that, we can allow folks to come and actually see what's going on and be a part of what's going on. But let me just see, Grand Sheik, if, because I was trying to stay in the background. Didn't want to say it. I did not want to say it, but, I let him say enough to hang himself because folks, folks we're talking to him. I'll let you all say what you had to say to him. You know what I mean? So let's get back on track. You're talking about the U.S. or the meaning standing for Unam Sanctum.
It is, yes.
Right. And so which brings to mind so many other things that we have been deceived regarding. Yes. How many things we think are one thing that actually have a totally different meaning.
They're codes for totally different things.
Right. So the folks let's, for instance, the obvious elephant in the room, the black issue, the matter of us, being black. We're not, but that whole campaign.
That whole tag. It's a tag, a status tag.
And the push for us to wear this like a proud banner is something that has been going on for a very long time. And it's so much so that it seems that we're indoctrinated. How do we shake, if you will? What do we need to show our people, the ones that are still not there yet, to think they're black, that think they're people of color?
How do we get even like earlier, we were looking at some videos with a very well spoken sister,
right,
who was really from another political jurisdiction, and you notice how they will continually dance around identifying the people, and they will always make statements like people of color, melanated people, and black people, trying to avoid admitting that these people are Moors, everything that they can. And in doing so, they're actually, though some of them mean well, they're perpetrating and continuing the perpetration of the fraud upon the people, because such tags were created in order to disengage the people from what is known as a competent heirship position, or what is known politically as a rightful descendable heir. And thus, any conversations that were included in their conversations to the positive for the benefit of the people, as far as uplifting them economically and politically, they actually kill it every time they start using statements like people of color. And as you know, people of color is a legal term that actually means corporately dead people, having no rights, no liberties, etc. And because our people in general are not taught jurisprudence and law terms, etc., they would embrace these terms because they would be coming from people who look like us, who appear to have good intentions, when actually they're promoting the connotative linguistics that actually imply an agreement or an acquiescence to the code systems that are put in place administratively to maintain both the mental servitude and the political economic servitude being part of the caste system that really needs to be dismantled, which is another reason why it's so important for people to comprehend and understand why Noble Drew Ali mentioned or present nationality. And so that presentment is the organic nativity of the people distinguished from the corporate. However, at the same time, until the people started examining these different positions that people would hold, they would not comprehend this information for themselves. Because until it becomes their own information, they will not make the discernments which are necessary. And what's happening today at in the West and around the world is that people, because of the controversies being presented, are starting to examine these things and beginning to understand, overstand, and understand the realities of what these things are, what they mean, the different terms, etc. They are making both in their mental state and in any different political venues that they can operate in, a reversion of their estates, etc., which is the purpose of our activities in the first place. Because as you already know, and as we know, until the people themselves will the change will not come.
I have some questions that I've kind of highlighted here. Let me try to go back. Let's see if I can find them. All right. So, okay, we'll just put them up.
Also keep in mind, and this is for the people too, that the tax systems that have been operating in the Western Hemisphere are all unlawful. All of them, not some of them, not a little bit. All of them are unlawful and are actually criminal activities. And they've been using it, which are really tributes, actually to build up both their agencies and their institutions, which are used and weaponized against the people. The very people that are making those tributes in the name of tax are actually been funding their own connotative, political, economic enslavement, etc. And this is, again, as the people are waking up, this is why you see so much emphasis that the hybrid European corporate operatives have been putting on Juneteenth as an example to give the people another diversion. Mm-hmm. The only thing good about it is that our people come together. Everything else about it is a fraud.
Yeah.
And a continuation of mental victimism, which is also means non-descendability. And this is, again, like over the years as we've talked, people need to comprehend why the nom de guerres were constructed in the first place, because the issues are descendability. And again, just like Brother Rod was talking about before, when you start making what you say contrary or airship position claims in the public domain, it kills the straw. That's what kills the straw. You can't capture it. Those things are duplicated, and they're in the portfolios of different nation states under the guise of U.S. Treasury bonds all over the world.
Let me ask you this, Grand Sheik. So to be clear, up until this point where things started to fall apart for them, for all of these years, ever since the bond system has been in place, these nations have known that the instruments were based on our on our backs. They knew, they didn't think it was something else, and were duped into this. They literally knew that we were the cattle or the chattel or the whatever, the
to
stock.
back the U.S. corporate debt. See, this is the issue, and this is why, like we've always exposed to the people over the years, why it was necessary for them to hijack Masonry, which is a rites of passage operations that's Asiatic African in origin, but they hijacked it, and Eastern Star, etc., which is part of our culture, i.e., because our culture is cosmo culture, symbolized by the crescent and the star, which is actually Isis, etc., and the five-pointed star, which is actually Venus, which is also Isis, which is a symbol, metaphor for both mother and son, which May son, my son actually is. And so my son, or Isis, is actually Jesus. So Jesus is actually the duality of the mother and son symbol. It's not, the man image that they have that they display to the people. Isis, or yes, that's really the mother and the son together. That's the nature of. That's why it always says, there's no one here but us, mother and son. And so the mother is the nature of the creative womb and the nurturing earth, etc. I.e., that's why all governing principles on earth in their nature, not by opinion, is a matriarchy. And so when you're talking about the rules of civilized order, you talk about the rules of Mother Nature and the rules of the motherland and the rules and any symbolisms, whether you're using totems or vixillums, what they call flags, etc. It is representative of the trade principles and operations of the different lands of the mothers between each other, which is why the vixillum or the flags are referred to as the banners or the flags of vixillum of the motherland, no matter where you are on the planet. And so this is based in the workings of nature. It's not based, though people may take their opinions, etc. The fact of the matter is all based in nature, the observations of nature. And so when you even see people arguing the issue of the matriarchy, it is because the agenda of their association with the patriarchal operations of the Roman oligarchies. That's all, and that's obvious. And this is again why when you look at the Christian black codes, etc., all things that are structured are by their design to put men and women against each other and get them fighting with each other in order to dissolve the family. And so people are arguing the patriarchy and the matriarchy when they don't know that they're actually operating or aiding in the destruction of their own families by going against the rules of nature. And so they present a position whereas men are supposed to be threatened by acknowledging the natural power of the womb and the Ankh or the sistrum, which is the principle of government, which they will call the Ankh, etc. And while that's used, you already know that is a geometric symbolism of the operations of the womb and of government, etc. And so whether you was male or female, if you were operating in government, that is a symbol of authority.
Well, let's get back here to like I said, some comments. Yeah. Let me see if I can go back up in a couple. Okay, this one, first one I start. If you could ask Taj about the ancient one, I guess the return of the ancient ones. I'm not sure what to ask you about, but what that means.
The return of the ancient ones. All right, like say in the mid '80s, like in the mid '80s, we used to have conversations with the Empress Ghostin, right? Mm-hmm. So after we had conversations with her over the years, and she had been going, through the different venues, museums, and other places where they have been covering up or hiding documents which her mother had been telling her about. There's nothing new, if you get the point. And so she went about the business of gathering as much of the documentation that she could, but it was obvious and well known amongst anyone in any of the secret societies, etc., that the so-called Louisiana purchase was a fraud, and because we can't sell the land. That's number one. And so when you're talking about the Wakata du Munye, you're talking about the mound builders or the Wakata, etc., which they also refer to as the Washita or Washington, etc., etc. It is the Aboriginal people. And when she wrote her book about her experience, on trying to restore the land, this is where you have when she wrote the book, Return of the Ancient Ones. Mm-hmm. And so when you're talking about the ancient ones, you're talking collectively of the Asiatic African tribes of the land, the Aboriginal peoples of the land. And when you trace back, all of these people are Bantu, Mandinka, are Phoenicians, i.e. collectively Moors, etc. And when you go into the ancient history of the Olmec, etc., you go into the history of Hammurabi Bay. You go into and Hagar, etc. And even those principles of governing and economics that were set forth in Central America among the Olmec, etc., Hammurabi Bay, etc., are used to this very day, including the military operations. And of course, as you already know, by the hybrid Europeans constructing or what you call reconstructing history and talking and presenting the fakery of the so-called black diaspora, the people keep looking at geographical jurisdictions as foreign, not knowing that when you're talking about the ancient ones, you're talking about the planet itself, not just here. But the heartland of operations was actually on this side, and this is again why they hide a lot of the information of Central America and the Yucatan and of the Grand Canyon, because they don't want the people to know that we have kuntas here that are actually older than the kuntas on the other side. It's no secret, never been pyramids.
Oh, okay. All right.
The mounds.
Oh, the mounds. Okay. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's another.
But that's no secret. That's no secret to scholars. But many of our people are in their mind keep thinking geographical jurisdictions are foreign and keep thinking that we were just stuck here or stuck on the other side. That's not true at all. And there's no fact that it's not true. However,
it's taught, in the face of the biblical narrative that we've been given, one would think that everything happened, like you said, happened over there, and that when everything was destroyed, that over there was everything, as opposed to an isolated, if it did happen that way, and as opposed to an isolated event, and that somehow, like you said, this landmass popped up and was available when we were brought over, allegedly.
That whole paradigm is a false construct that was done in universities.
Absolutely. And so that's been so ingrained and indoctrinated in folks. Folks live on that. People are, they
but keep
give
in
their
mind,
life for that narrative.
The effective too. It separates the people from themselves, and it separates the people mentally from the land. In the rule of heritability, it makes such persons or peoples incompetent to heirship, or what is known as non-descendable heirs, and thus gives foundation for the establishment of the nom de guerre branding systems that they created. This is why in the 1800s they created the Bureau of Indian Affairs to get our people to agree to be Indians, knowing that we're the people of the land, but thinking that they were going to be allowed or a right of reclaiming of their sovereignty to the land. And all of that was a trap to divide the people again and divide the tribes again among themselves against each other, and then introduce Semnite, i.e. other Asiatics from other parts of the world, and call them Indians. And this is where you get the Bureau of Indian Affairs and what is known commonly as the $5 Indians. It's why whenever you go to the powwows, you'll see the predominant people who are always trying to claim to be having Mohawk and Cherokee blood. They are hybrid Europeans wearing ponytails and beads.
And is that
claiming the land is a trap?
Is it also true that a lot of so-called some of the treaties that are spoken of were not even signed? And I heard Rod
not just that they weren't signed,
they weren't entered into with our people. They were
particularly reconstructed materials. However, keep in mind, until the people started looking at these things, they would not make the discernments which are necessary, which is why over the years we've been emphasizing the master treaty called the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, etc., which is called the Mother Treaty, or the oldest running treaty in the world, etc. And this is for the people to recognize that the hybrid Europeans who hijacked Algiers, Tunis, and that whole area, and the creation of the territory known as Morocco on the other side, is a totally contemporary paradigm, because the Maghreb is actually here where we stand. Actually, the tribes here collectively is the heartland of the ancient Moabite Canaanite empire. And this is again why they won't teach them they'll mention the Moabites, etc., and they'll have images around the world of the great Moabites, but they, instead of calling her the great Moabites, they'll say the Black Madonna. Mm-hmm. And that's the symbol of the matriarchy of the planet. And so people don't know that black, the word is not negative. It just simply means white spot and pale colors. They think it means African divinity. It's actually a nom de guerre. And as soon as they say black power, they're saying pale people power, and don't even know because they can't read. Now, the intention is good, but in law, it makes such persons incompetent. And a lot of scholars who know this, what we're talking about now, try to, you know how you say, go along to get along. And so rather than admit that these people are ancient Moors, that's M-U-U-R-S, M-O-O-R-S, and even the interchangeable of the U and the O is based on our traditions of what you will call oral dispensations in honor of that which is sacred. And so the art was considered sacred, and so we would use the U in place. But in fact, they're interchangeable if you get the whole point. But people need to know the culture. And the real deal of it is, this is why all of the people of the secret societies around the world will wear the crown of the sun, or what is known as the fez, etc., which is Tierra Sol, which means crown of the sun, in order to declare to the world that they have conquered us. It is not theirs, that's our crown. And this is why you will see in your, like on your islands of the Americas, you'll see even old statuettes in the Yucatan, etc., and you'll see statuettes with fezzes. That stuff is ancient. They're not only thousands of years ago, they're millennia old, etc. And the other deal of it is, by them misusing it or misrepresenting it, it gets our people to reject it, if you get the point, when they're rejecting their own crown. And then because you have many people among our own who are corrupted, they have been working with the hybrid Europeans, i.e., that they've been using as a front to do a lot of their dirty work. And so a lot of people are mad at the neighbors down the street just because they're hybrid Europeans and they're not even your enemies. They're just trying to survive, just like many of our people. If you get the whole, because most of them are here as indentured servants. They didn't come here necessarily with the intent in their mind of colonizing us. It has been the corrupt rulership of the oligarchies, etc., of the Circle Church and Chancery, who are really the operatives who have been doing all this dirt around the world. And that distinction must be made. However, this is why Drawley says, you know, a lot of Europeans will be helping. He said, even though, you know, he doesn't trust them, he knows that a lot of them don't have that negative U.S., i.e. Unam Sanctum agenda. They were just brought here as indentured servants. And most of them in the 1800s. It ain't like they was here from no 1500s and stuff like that. All that's a BS, even about their immigration. And many of the Europeans who are operating on the land now their families didn't get here till the early 1900s. And so even a lot of the misrepresented history about them is backdated, if you get the point. Right. And one of the real problems that we have in general has to do with a lot of what you call hybrids or hybrid Europeans, many who are children of the Moors in Iberia and other areas, i.e. hybrids who are actually came together to set up the war machine to come to the West. That's what the Columbus story is really all about. Mostly hybrids, or what you would call today as mulattoes. And so this is why when you start looking or doing the research, and one of your great scholars, Joel A. Rogers, etc., and you go into European history, you see all the coats of arms are Moors. It's never been a secret. However, when the people are looking at the history and they're talking about King George and the rest of them. They're not looking at images of mulattoes or hybrids. They're looking at pale faces, which are really reconstructed.
Absolutely. That's the thing, because to the victor go the spoils.
I mean, that's
and
not
also
that's not unknown.
And the victors also get to rewrite their history or to write their history. Here's a question, and there's a couple of questions in here on the same subject. This one is to ask you if you have any advice on how conscious Moors should prepare for the tough times ahead so that we don't starve to death. And then there's another sister that says, talk about famine, please. So those are, like, to me the same. Before you respond, my 2 cents is that part of the narrative that we're being fed has to do with the mindset that they're trying to instill in the people regarding there not being, adequate water, oil, gas, and so forth. So on the one hand, Grand Sheik, I don't know if you agree with us, some of what's happening is forcing us to go back to natural things. Now, I yield.
Now, in the nature of what you just now stated, is it not true, and it is true for research, did Noble Drawley say to the Moors, go back to that state of mind of your ancient mothers and fathers? That's your answer. He says what? The nations of the earth have your history. And this is why, let me give you an example, Dr. G. Years ago, remember when it was on the social media, and we're not talking about media that they have now, plate of when they were setting up Abu Jamal?
Oh, yeah.
Right. I wrote an article, which we published in the Al Moroccan Star years ago, right around 201. You know where who responded? The response came from? Didn't come from people here, came from Denmark. Positively. And yet, the principles of jurisdiction that I was arguing and presenting to people here, I was getting criticized from people here in both the temples and other people that are promoting the Black agenda, who are also making finance off of promoting raising funds for him.
Were they upset because you were defending?
Because I was talking from a law and status position, and I wasn't playing the victim game.
Mm-hmm. But see, we know now, and you may have known then, but many of us, would not even fathom back then that the system was as corrupt as it was, and that in some cases that they will do their own end and then set somebody up to take the fall for it, just to create a like a movement, just like that move and all that stuff.
This is what they do.
Yes, this is what they do.
Create problems. They create problems. Then they get members among our own people to start fundraisers. Then they generate thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of Federal Reserve notes in the name of liberating our people, and it's distributed mostly upon members of the Circle Church and Chancery of the Bar Association, who feed off of it, and then there's no remedy, if you get the whole point.
Modern case in point, BLM, that whole situation, when you look at the back of it, besides what went to the so-called, founders, the bulk of it went to was political and went to people's campaigns that were on the blue side. So
exactly,
that's not the first time that's happened
for in the first place for that purpose.
So, but here's what I want to do. I want to go back to my previous questions. I don't really think we answered it to the satisfaction of maybe those who are asking, what can we do to prepare to get ourselves ready for whatever they're bringing down the pike next.
No, they're not bringing it down the pike. It's here. It's on the pike.
What can we do? Besides growing our own fruits and vegetables, and
the energies that people have been putting into the church, mosques, and synagogues, they need to put that same energy into preserving the nativity of life itself. It is not hard. They need to redirect their energies. This is because, remember, all of the religious platforms have been hijacked too. but people won't admit it.
Yeah.
And they keep putting their energies there, and it has produced nothing. What did Minister Farrakhan say to the people? And he said it strongly. He said, religion has failed us. You know how many people attacked him for that, but he was telling the truth? But the deal of it is that needs to be commonly recognized by our people. Until they themselves recognize that truth and start redirecting their energy, which means we're consenting to the frauds that have been injuring us. And most of the time, as you know, most of the so-called leaders, etc., or people who have been presented as leaders, would not make a statement like Farrakhan made, would they? They wouldn't dare make that statement. Why? Because people would leave the clubs. You get the point?
Right.
However, he told the truth, didn't he?
True. But
now back to the point that I'm making.
Yeah.
When the people go back to the traditions and customs of our ancient mothers and fathers, you reattach to nature. Once you comprehend that and understand that, she will always take care of you and feed you, because you will reattach to the earth and thus reattach to the knowledge of your estate.
I will say this, Grand Sheik, on the flash drive that we offer, there is under the House of Real Awakening Minds folder, there is a whole there's a plethora, if you will, of survivalist PDFs on how to.
Excuse me for 1 minute. I'm going to get some water.
Okay. So anyway, while he's doing that, let me just say that on the flash drive, and let me see if I can get down here to the flash drive. Okay. So on this flash drive, among other things, because there are about 800 documents, in the House of Real Awakening Minds folder, there are loads of PDFs that address the question about survival, how to, I can't even tell you how many PDFs I put on there of that, how to, grow, do your garden, how to, heat when all the, say, the grid goes out, how to clean water, how to, first aid, there's so many things on there. But one of the things that I would recommend is, like, everybody should get one of those life straws. I think it's called a life straw, which is a personal straw that if you're in a situation where the only water you have to drink may be something that might be contaminated or not necessarily clean, because even the water that comes out of the faucets now probably are not clean, but those straws will give you clean water to drink. But again, going back to nature, if you don't know what your ancient mothers and fathers did, they didn't have supermarkets. And so we might have to go to more of a plant-based diet. And if you would start to grow your own, the things that you can, herbs, get things like, you can grow mushrooms, you can make mushrooms. They come out, because they're like a fungus. So I know how to make mushrooms taste like meat. So you need to get things, vegetables, fruits, things like that you can store up. And even I've invested in those survival kits. I have like about, 5 or 6 months, Grand Sheik, I have survival totes that last 25 years if I ever have to use that stuff. So, but I would think that one of the things they really want to do is start learning how to get back in touch with the land. If you're not in a place where you have land around you, they have vertical grow pots and so forth that you can grow indoors, so that you can grow vertically up in your house and start to have at least the staples. You can store up on dry goods like beans and rices and things like that, things that don't go bad, but learn how to drink the sun, so to speak. Put your feet on the ground and help yourself draw that energy.
Yep, you get vitamin D from the sun, because your body doesn't produce it just naturally, like in amounts that you need. So vitamin D is from the sun, which is another reason why the hybrids have been chemtrailing, not just with the barium and other heavy metals that they've been putting into the atmosphere. It's also to block the sun, and also one of the reasons why they've been doing all these bio attacks on the people to separate the people. They want them to stay indoors and not be social, so they can get out of the sun, because the sun is also your healer, etc. And then also because, as we've talked about years ago, the Earth has already gone through the Futon belt, and so you have a different whiter energy coming from the sun, and that has to do with the fact of the other sun that's actually projecting. And this is why, again, it's also important for people to recognize the helio ascension of Sirius from behind the sun, etc., which is July the 4th, and why that date is important. And it has nothing to do with the so-called Declaration of Independence that they're talking about, because that was signed on the 2nd, not the 4th, etc. But the heliacal rising of Sirius. And you need to know that, because once you know your culture, you'll know that relationship. The other thing, and we're not just talking about that, we're also talking about the alignments of the planet. That's another conversation in itself. But if you go back to the culture or the thinking of your ancient mothers and fathers, that would be your mode of thinking. The other deal is that you must recognize why the hybrid's been making so many chemicals to poison dandelions. Dandelions is one of your most important foods and medicinal foods. Keep that in mind. Both the root, the leaf, and the plant, the flower.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And this is why they've been training the people to poison it, because nature puts it in front of your door for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so
not just the dandelion, Grand Sheik. There are a lot of so-called weeds that
one example.
Yeah, you know that app that I have on my phone, the time we walked to the Brandywine, and I was able to identify the plants by just shooting a picture of it, and it'll tell you whether it's poisonous or can you eat it and what it's good for. And every year there's a change of what comes and grows on my front and back lawn, and normally it's something that has a medicinal purpose. You just have to have some knowledge, and or like I said, they have apps that you can. I think it's called Picture This on your. You can get that off of the in the Google's Play Store. Picture This, and use that to identify various. Before you cut it down as a weed, it may I remember Dr. B. Serious told me. He said 9 times out of 10, what you need is growing outside your front door or your back door.
Nature always we're out of harmony with nature. And many of your thistle plants are actually some of your most nutrient plants.
Liver.
You need to how do you say, not look at the Wives of Atlanta type thing. You need to start, really, you need to start paying attention to people, and both Asiatics and Europeans are sharing information now to help uplift fallen humanity. Start harmonizing with people of positive mind. Don't get caught up in the race crap arguments that they've been presenting to you.
Right.
That is a false paradigm. Start harmonizing with people that are doing positive things for the uplifting of fallen humanity. Keep in mind, a lot of hybrid Europeans are telling many truths now because they have lost their position. They'll call it the dissolution of the middle class. What they really mean is that they've been thrown under the bus. So they're telling. That's what that really means. However, when it all boils down, it's still our estate that they're arguing over. And many of the hybrid Europeans are telling a lot of the culture of the ancient Moors. They are. They'll just put it in different words. You're going to learn from a lot of people, because the tax system, keep in mind, people think that taxes when, as an example, when they're working and the United States corporation members of the bar running the Congress and the Senate have what you call a mandatory tax coming out of their compensation, which is misclassified as income. They think that that's tax. Keep in mind, all tributes, all services rendered unto the private corporation is a tax. Not just the FRNs. All your services rendered unto them is a tax. And I repeat, all taxes issued by the United States Corporation Company and the states of jurisdictions are all colored, are all de facto, are all frauds. This is why over the years, we've always promoted writs that would challenge the jurisdiction and the taxation on all and any front presented by them, because we knew it was a fraud. The greater problem we would have is the ignorance of the people who would side with Rome against us when we were working for the people, not comprehending that we're working on their behalf and that we were telling the truth. However, we're moving into an area now where people are becoming more conscious and they're in this gray area between the dimensional ascensions, and more people are moving to a higher level of cognizance, and nature herself is starting to talk to them now. And so we must understand that their tax system is being dismantled.
You know, I hear about some folks, and it seems to be random, and some of them are ours, that are saying that all of a sudden the student loan balance went to zero, or some big loan that they have comes back saying, you know, no balance due, and so forth. And so we hear about that eventually, supposedly, allegedly happening with the Gisera and the Sarah. But you're hearing randomly about it happening to people. What is that about? If is it possible that
we've been telling people for years, haven't we been telling people that was going to start happening? Who was criticizing us? People who were claiming to be grand governors and grand sheiks in the Moorish Science Temple of America. But we already know what that's about, if you get the point. However, as we told the people, they're not going to get out of this generation without experiencing these things. Pay attention to details. It's not coming, it's with you now. The deal of it is for those who have any honor and any integrity to do as much as they can to succor those who are injured, and to comfort those who are injured, not with pity, but with intelligent conversation, to share with them information that they will be able to survive the onslaught of intended injury that's being put among the people now and is being accelerated. People who are less conscious are easier victims, i.e., they're easier to destroy. But once you become cognizant of what's going on, they're less able to carry out their plans, because they also need you to cooperate. They need you to consent. And when you're cognizant of what's really going on, you have less tendency to consent, and you have more tendency to to exercise discernment, not just on an immediate third dimensional level, but soon as you start exercising that cognitively and unconsciously, you'll start unlocking the upper chamber of the mind, and it activates the intuitive mind, and you'll start activating that fifth dimensional energy, and they can't operate there. This is why over the years we've kept encouraging the people to do writs, because it's a confession to the ethers. It's a command to the ethers.
to change?
But most of them have done their work.
Listen, let me ask you this, because this might apply to somebody who's listening too. I got a call the other day from a brother who was trying to get his paperwork together regarding reversion of estate. He, I think 7 years or so ago, they hijacked. They took his home at the time, his domicile at the time, or and now he's trying to go through the process. And he asked me the question, well, when I complete this paperwork, where, who, to
that's
whom?
the concept wrong. As soon as they say that.
Well, I'm just
go
let me
ahead.
finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
You can correct me, just because there might be others who have this question. So he wanted to know, once he completed the reversion or paperwork with regard to the property being taken, what happens? I mean, in one case you say that as soon as you sign those debt pledges, it's a fraud anyway, but doesn't mean necessarily that somebody's coming after you to take it. Once it is taken, right? the non pro tonk, now for then. What is it, the mechanism, if you could tell us briefly, that one has to go through the steps
Now,
in order to challenge what was done? We
let's
do
back
know,
up.
we
Let's
don't know
back
of some people that are getting
Yeah, let's back
positive
up.
that they can have their property back, right?
Yeah, remember. Well, you already know a couple of people right now that's in that
Yes.
process.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, in the future, if you would like, we'll have a couple of them come on and give testimony to what's going on. Because as you already know, it's not going to be in the mainstream news. And persons who have been compromised operating from the temples who were supposed to be put in place to enforce, to make law and to enforce law, they have actually been enemies. And so they're not going to expose it. This is, again, why a lot of times when we discuss some of these things, we appear to be like we're out in left field by ourselves, although we're really not. If you get the point, what you have is too few people that have any guts to be honest with this information. And this is back to even when I first heard Brother Rod, and the first thing came to my mind after 5 minutes, he's a cleaner, a dual, and that's why I said that, because I recognize, he's a general that comes, he ain't playing. He's not coming trying to dress up with some frills, how do you say, adorn all these tags and buttons and, the banner around the paps, etc. He's in the field. He's getting down dirty with the dirty, if you get the point. And a lot of people don't understand that because they don't see spiritually. But people who can see dimensionally and spiritually would recognize that he's a real, true warrior. And he's sincere to the uplifting of fallen humanity. Now, who would you rather have beside you in this battle? Rod Hayes or somebody trying to sell you 2 pies in the sky because he dressed up real cool with a nice turban or fez on? I take Rod any day and every day. You know what I mean? Because he's real. Over the years, I've traveled across this land. I've been in almost every state territory. I've been at colleges, universities speaking. I've spoken and dealt with many people from different organizations. I've spoken to politicians. I've spoken to ambassadors from other countries, et cetera, et cetera. And many of them have sent people to see me, et cetera, which you already know about, which I don't even talk about because it ain't no big deal. But the deal of it is very few that I've talked to that got the guts that Rod has. And I love that brother. He's my brother. He's my family. And guess what? Need more like him. Because the time for playing is over. Now, and he'll get something done. So I'm not looking, he ain't got a fez on. We're boxing. It ain't about that. Well, his shoes ain't polished. Please. I don't even deal with that because, but you already know where I'm at with that, Doc. Because I'm in the field, and you already know I can't even walk down the street, have time, go to any public place. That's why I don't wear my fez. I try not to attract attention. So I can have a piece of a life.
I know.
But the deal of it is, he is one of the most sincere brothers I've run into in decades. And I've had many people around me that I work with, but they ain't got no testicles. And believe me, that was a breath of fresh air. Phew. Please. Because mother is always on time. You can't challenge mother because she knows it's on time. But when I first started listening to that brother, I was saying, Dad, what took mom so long? But then, that's taking liberty. So I got to pull that back because she knows what she's doing on time. Allah knows what Allah does. Man makes a plan and Allah makes a plan. And Allah is the best planner. Anyway, but the deal of it is, dandelion root.
Wait a minute. No, you done went back to this. No. Hold it, please.
Yeah, go ahead.
Come on. Come here. Let me reel you back in.
Because, reel me in.
No. I All I want to know, and I don't need to know the who you send it to.
Remember.
Here's the thing. Once it's, I can see if somebody's property has been.
Let's put this.
And they want to start the process.
This is what happens. This is what happens. You know how we've always told people, whenever you're dealing with them, always stop calling them the state, stop calling them the city, stop calling them the federal government, stop calling them the IRS. Talk to the man or woman.
Right.
The living man or woman who claims agency in your estate. This is like years ago. Remember, and though it was many people, this is why every once in a while I will share, one of the writs that Rick Hosang sent out with them, Rick Hosang Il, to show as an example how you talk to them. Right. You must talk to the living and not to the dead, because the projection is the God of the living and not the God of the dead. Right. You can't talk to the corporation and get satisfaction. The corporation is dead. And which is why they always list the people living as corporations. And once you start venuing them on that platform, you're already dead. However, in the rule of heritability, you must talk to the living man or woman. And in doing so, you have created a challenge of jurisdiction known as an averment of jurisdiction. And in its nature, it is also a quo warranto. So now they have to prove their claim. But by you putting it in writing, now it's in the public domain. However, whenever we gave that stuff to the people, even when we put stuff on the web on those flash drives, what is one of the things that you've noticed over the years that I've always told these people? And they say, "Who do you send it to? This is Happy Clown's address, and I need to send this out." And I say, "Nope, study it. The one we need to convince is you. And the only time you need to use them is when someone challenges your estate. You send it to the man or woman who's challenging your estate just to cover. You don't need the whole content. And soon as you're flying your ship or your flag, your signal, etc., by international law, they must give pass, since they're claiming to be government. So now you're using the law to put them in check.
So the paperwork that they present,
see, when they say
whoever it came from, that says they took your thing, then they respond. When they respond to whoever's on that paperwork.
Let me qualify this. People keep saying paperwork, the paperwork, the paperwork. What paperwork? See, what is on that paper? Paperwork is what? Magazine, porno magazines. Paperwork is
whatever notice.
Wrappers. Hold on,
whatever notice was given to the homeowner to say you're getting out.
This is what I'm saying to you. You must be specific to the issue. Right. Paperwork means nothing. What is on the paperwork? When someone says to me, "Well, I sent the paperwork," that you're not saying anything. The paperwork can be a letter. You're trying to date somebody. You're trying to get a peanut butter sandwich for free, or what? You're applying, which is a subordinate position for something, or are you giving notice to someone?
Giving notice of your.
So now, if someone says to me, "I did paperwork," if they're not saying to me, "I did lawful notice to such and such a person concerning this, and this content of information of reversion that's on this paper," and then display that, then you can support or reject. But if they're not talking about the substance that's on that paperwork, when they say paperwork, that means absolutely nothing. That is totally blank and an incompetent position. Now, as an example, and which we did a couple of shows back, right, Dr. G? And we did that essential counter move to and I won't name her right now because I can pull it up on the computer. And the woman that sent that was going after Rick's both private and business and his private account, we didn't say the IRS, did we?
No, you addressed it to
We
her.
named the person, didn't we?
Yes.
Right? And then what did their agencies, representatives, return in mail? We agree with you, as you stated in your paper, in information received, that you're not obligated to the tax. If there's any further problem, blah, 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 call this number, blah, 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 and all the stuff went away. We didn't talk to no corporate entity. We talked to the living man or woman. That's how the paper is to be used. It must always be a notice. You don't ask them for anything. You need to comprehend what estate is. This is why we've been so redundant with this over the years. People keep jumping to things without comprehending what they're talking about. And they're allowing people to sell them processes when the estate or the birthright can't be sold. So as soon as they start going from that direction, we already know that the concept is wrong. And this is why we always tell people, what we do? We say, here's on a flash drive, right? So that you can study the principles. So you can know who's who. You don't need to send it to anyone. But if someone challenges your estate or makes a claim on your estate, that's the man or the woman that you send it to put them on notice. What it does, it creates the foundation of rejection of their claim because they have none. And if they move now, you got future suit because you also put the accuser on notice. In any lawful process, if someone torts or creates a tort or transgresses against you, trespass against you, you put them on notice for the public record. Now they have no counterclaim. But if you make no claim, if you make oral or you talking on a phone, it can be rebutted as hearsay. When you put it in a form of an averment of jurisdiction or notice, guess what? They're suable in the future and they can't get out of it. But you cannot come from a position of a subordinate asking them for a damn thing. You must make your claim of estate and tell them. A notice is not an application. And so when people are talking paperwork, they're not talking about notices, then they're talking BS. And if somebody, and you don't need to, you just put them on notice. Now, years ago, we would send them to like the Secretary of State. Why? Because that deals with international affairs, if you get the point, and treaties, etc. Right? And so what happens is where they've been throwing your moniker around with a name that sounds like yours, once they start doing that, they're creating an open fraud. And once that notice gets to other people that are buying them bonds, that bond dies. It's called choking the straw man. Now, people who don't understand it say, well, the paperwork don't do this and the paperwork they don't even know the real reason why the paperwork is out there or what's on it. They just say paperwork blankly without understanding. And this is why a lot of times when people ask me, I said, no, you study it because it's to clear up their concepts. Even when we did the reversioner, right? When we did the reversioner as a statement, years ago, what about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we did the Clearfield Doctrine, right? Mm-hmm. And so with the Clearfield Doctrine, that's issues from the Supreme Court that demonstrates that they are a private corporation. And that when you approach them, you deal with them no different than you deal with Sears and Roebuck or Macy's or somebody talking shit to you across the counter. They have no more standing than that. And how many years we've been telling people that, and they still keep on saying, my senator, my congressman, the judge of the city of Wilmington. These are private human traffickers imposing and pretending to have authority that is not vested in them.
Listen, that just sparked something. I understand that just like a week or so ago, maybe within the last week or two, that the Bilderbergs held this big meeting. I forgot where it was. It was somewhere in the States. They kind of had it secret, but that they claim all of these big so-called heads of various government and corporate entities claim that they were there in their personal capacities and not in their official capacity to discuss world affairs.
You know why? And I know why, but you know why?
Why?
Because the straw man has been choked and the United States Corporation Company is defunct. It has expired. It is dead. Their seats are dead. They have no authority. And not only can the common people come after them now, anybody around the world can come after them. Because what? If they claim the seat, that's not only treason.
Back up a little bit. You're out of the camera, girl. Sheik, look. I know you trying to make your point. There you go. Back up. Got your face right in. Got your face right in the camera. But no, I thought that was interesting.
But let me remind.
Yeah, the point was that even with that statement that they were in their private capacities discussing world affairs, like what even in their private capacity gives them the right.
You know why this on the surface for the listeners? The reason they said that, because if they spoke outside of their private capacity, the provost marshal and anyone working for the sheriff, of course they're all corrupted too, can literally walk straight up to them and put a bullet right in the middle of their head for treason on the spot. Martial law. So what they're doing is called a qualifier. They're qualifying. I ain't really a governor. I ain't really an oligarchy of one of the corporations of the United States Corporation Company that's bankrupt. I'm just speaking, and I'm just my opinion. And I thought I'd get together with my buddies and have some coffee and discuss things like all ordinary people have the authority to do on their own, because all the rights reverted back to the people. Anyway, the people just don't know it. And we're trying to make them aware of it. However, so many of them are incompetent because they haven't been studying, which is why we've been redundantly sharing certain key information with them over the years so that they can start taking control of their lives and putting their families back together. But they're still trying to play subject. They're still trying to play U.S. citizen. It's a whole dead paradigm. You can't be free. In other words, you can't serve two masters.
Absolutely.
You can't be free and a slave at the same time. Stop acting like it.
You can't live in fear. That's one thing, because fear is absolutely designed to get you to acquiesce to whatever plan or program or whatever.
Isn't it called consent? Isn't an application a consent from a subordinate position? And if you have rights, you don't make consents, you make demands. You make commands, demands, and declarations. Now, let me read this again to you all to remind you all. This is about maybe 5 or 6 years ago when we did the Clearfield over the house, Reawakening Minds. It might have been 7, I don't know, in that area. But anyway, let me read the Supreme Court to you. Even though we know all these platforms are de facto, but remember, this applies to them, those who claim to be government. United States Supreme Court, Clearfield Trust Company versus United States. 318 U.S. 363-371, 1942, known as the Clearfield Doctrine. Quote unquote, Supreme Court. Governments descend to the level of a mere private corporation and take on the characteristics of a mere private citizen, where private, corporate, commercial paper, Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, and securities checks is concerned. For purposes of suit, such corporations and individuals are regarded as entities entirely separate from government. That's Supreme Court. Now, we've been teaching these people this for over 40 years from the round table. And we've been attacked by people who should have been enforcing this. They were put in place to enforce this. And they've been the major ones attacking us, trying to call us a fraud, saying they're exposing us. The real deal is we're exposing them and those who are paying them in the background to keep our people passive. This is why they mad at Rod, because he ain't passive. He's the extreme opposite. I love it. You know, but the deal of it is what I just said. All persons and all people who are the head of any so-called civic group or the head of any so-called nation of this or nation of that, or talking anything in relationship to nations, or talking about people's rights, or talking about citizenship or anything like that whatsoever, was supposed to make this public information. They haven't been doing it because they've been busy attacking the round table, because we've been doing it for over 40 years. And because they had the people's ignorance in their pockets, they were able to get away with it. However, now the stuff is crumbling right before the faces of the people. And these same fakers who've been claiming to be government are robbing them at every front, right to their faces, whether it's at the gas pump, whether it's at the grocery market, whether they're trying to stick nanoviruses in their arms. And they're all human trafficking frauds. And there is no argument, yet the people are still arguing, aren't they? And they're still trolling, aren't they?
Yeah.
However, while they're trolling, everything around them is falling apart. How long do you think they're going to be able to do that before the people start coming after their necks too, recognizing that they've been part of the problem? Though they look like us, they ain't us.
Yeah. And everybody's just dispendable. So one day those that are being used will be they won't need you anymore.
They getting away with it while the people are ignorant. See, but guess what? We're coming into a new day now. And because the United States Corporation Company is defunct, and I think they made their settlement in 2019, and anybody that doubts that, go look up corporations, international corporations, and the bankruptcy, and you'll see the U.S. right on the list. And so if you think that these people that you keep calling governor and senator are legitimate, you keep on faking and fooling yourself, and keep on giving your tax and your finance to enslave yourself.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think that the Second Amendment is being so under attack? Because they're afraid that once folks really in mass realize the truth,
they know they're coming after them.
Yes.
They got more to worry about the middle class European. Because guess what? The first thing, they ain't gonna sit around and march around and making fools of themselves. Guess what they do? Click up.
Yeah, so it just happens to be that
Meanwhile, we should be getting our families back together. And don't invest in no big things, in no corporate credit activities. Keep your life simple. Keep your life simple. Put food and water away for your family to survive this thing, because it's not coming, it's here. Wow. And we'll work the other problems out later. Right now, reclaim your lost estate.
Well, let me look.
And them same people who've been trolling, trying to block this information, their coattails are going to be in the wind in short order.
Yeah.
And they ain't got to worry about us. They got to worry about a lot of them sisters out there that's families been broken up, that have been struggling, no man in the house. Them brothers who've been out there trying to shine, whose lives are destroyed, etc., and they start seeing these same people who've been trolling the truth, etc., has been part of the enemy operations of COINTELPRO. They'll be lucky if they can find a corner on this planet to keep breathing. And that's the truth. Because it's coming out now. It ain't going to come. It's coming out. And you ain't got to worry about Taji or anyone else telling you, because now the hybrid Europeans going to tell you themselves. Because their middle class has been dissolved and they're mad as hell and ain't taking it no more.
Yeah. Well, listen, we're almost about that time. You know what? I've been running. You met this brother. I've been running this ad for quite some time about the master jeweler that's in artisan Jedias, brother Jedias L. And I think he's from North Carolina. I'm running this under, but I happen to have on the jewelry set that he graced me with last year at Beyond Juneteenth, and I wanted to make sure, and I'm running his ad, I wanted you to see this. This is kind of on a copper necklace, a copper neck chain. It's very beautiful. So I just want to make sure, because I never had this on, Grand Sheik. You know, when the brother. So this and the matching earrings are just some of his hand created artistry. So you see, I'm trying to give a little bit more attention to some of the, the people that I advertise. If I have something to show, that they've either given me or I've purchased for them, I want you to see the quality of what you get. This is actually beautiful. So I happen to have it on today, so might as well tell y'all that. And I do apologize that I was supposed to have you all, I know, the link up for the August 26th, 27th, 28th event. It's coming up, but trust me, that is the date. The dates are firm. We're having a 3-day event with a Friday night, the 26th, through Sunday afternoon, the 28th. Friday night's a meet and greet with refreshments, DJs, so forth like that. Saturday nights, Grand Sheik and others will be presenting, and then on Sunday, we're doing a holistic and metaphysical fair, health fair, and wellness fair. Dr. Botanica, Brother Dave, Mother Kai, others, I think Sister Kareem, some others will be there. Even the astrologist, Sister Pamela Jones, and others. So that's coming up, and then we're having a Grand Sheik. Remember that big raffle for almost 5,000 notes worth of stuff, including a queen size Sleep M $2,000 mattress, and you don't even have to be mattress topper. And you don't have to be present. You just have to have a ticket. So we're going to be bringing that. I'll have that up. Push me, Grand Sheik, so I'll have it up by next week. So right. Folks will know how they can get there. But the dates are firm: August 26th, 27th, and 28th. We're looking forward. It's probably the only big event that we're going to do in 2022. But then after August, I think we will start doing once a month in person at the House of Reawakening Minds. But it will be starting maybe like in September. Once a month. We're going to still do our lives like we do here, because we get to reach a large number of you. But that one event once a month, those of you who used to come on Fridays, we're going to come back with one Friday in person. Don't know whether it'll be broadcast, but it'll definitely be in person for those who would like to come for that once a month. So anything else, Grand Sheik, that you wanted to say in closing? I mean, I appreciate you, appreciate you to no end, and we appreciate you. And let me say this: I know folks that say we don't beg for finances, but we do ask for your support. We are currently having some changes to what we're doing at the house. Just some things have changed, and so those of you who can send us a note or two, we would greatly appreciate it. But we're gonna be all right. We're definitely gonna be all right, and we plan to have more events that you can attend after the August event. We're going to start doing a little bit more there for those of you, especially those of you who are in the tri-state area. So you'll be able to know that things are going on. But know that our heart, this is our heart. We're not, we don't live off of you. But well, I do. I live off your love. I live off your positive energy, but not your finances. So that for sure. But we have, products and services that we advertise. And so when you take advantage of those things, those help us too. But anyone who appreciates what we bring and doesn't mind, sending a note or 5 or 10, we do appreciate it. Or getting a flash drive, or calling me for a AO scan, or getting chokeberry juice, whatever. We appreciate what you do. We absolutely do. Grand Sheik.
Anyway, you all know, for those of you who have any integrity and honor, know that the House of Reawakening Minds is here to serve you and to serve the people. And all things are mutual, etc. And we appreciate all that you do, all that you do to help and to support. So keep in mind what I just read. That's called the Clearfield Doctrine, for anyone that wants to remind themselves. And also the within the reversion or on the flash drive is also an excerpt from one of my lesson books dealing with the Clearfield Doctrine, so you can get your concepts together and recognize that you're not talking to government, you're talking to private corporation operatives, and essentially they're really organized criminals. However, because the people have been used to calling them or thinking that they're government, people are in a state of subordination, and they need to remove their mental and their actions from that state of mind and state of activity. That's why we've been doing over the years what we've been doing. However, we're quickly coming to the point where none of that will be necessary. And you're going to have to prepare yourselves to restore and to rebuild, which we've been reminding you in the last couple of sessions here. Anyway, thank you for sharing this evening with us here at the House of Reawakening Minds, etc. Thank you, Dr. G, for your longevity and integrity and your really clear mind. As can't share the conversations that we had earlier today, but I'm so glad that in spite of all the BS, that you've maintained this platform and that you've diversified and brought people from many walks of life, and anyone that has any integrity and honor to aid in the uplifting of fallen humanity. And I appreciate you for that, even if nobody else does. Anyway, have a grand evening, you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We do appreciate you, like I said earlier. And hey, it's gonna be days like we had. Like I said, let me say this, Grand Sheik, too, before we go. Let me apologize to you all if I got some of you came in the midst of my rant or my tirade, I would call it. But I let certain things go on just long enough so that not necessarily me, but that you all would see the absurdity and the disrespect that was going on in the chat. And like I said, I knew who that was, and I knew that they're putting together nasty disinformation what do you call it, the videos on their channel with regard to me, Grand Sheik, others, and others. So anybody who knows me or knows us knows better. But I would not even grace him to go to his channel to even see what he said, because it's garbage. And even though he's a halfway decent researcher, his receipts are wrong in this case. I can't. And it's the funny part about it, Grand Sheik, that he put some stuff up that I actually kind of concurred with. It was some stuff I saw, and I thought, okay, guess he's done his homework. But then as I listen more, there's truth mixed with falsehood is still a lie.
Yeah, clout chasing.
So, he needs to build his own platform. And he's come back on here like 3 times on the 3 different names. Since I blocked him, he came back 3 times. I blocked all of them. So, again, I apologize to you all if I got out of pocket, but I could have been more out of pocket if I just wanted to get the point across. This is not what we're here for. This is not what I'm here for. And I know Grand Sheik isn't. He's been doing this too long to be playing games with folks. We come. This is a labor of love. Trust and believe. I wasn't on last Tuesday because I'm trying to get it together so that I can do quality shows, and so that I can have a life a little bit, y'all. So, but I know how important it is to you all. And I was feeling really bad, Gracie, because I wasn't on Tuesday, because I know for those who look forward to the information that's presented on this platform. But I appreciate you all. Thank you for coming back here today. Share this video. Don't support any negativity, because he's not the only one, unfortunately. But don't support negativity. Let's see what we can do, to work together. See what we can do when people are asking about how we can survive and all this stuff. If you got something that you're doing, that is share worthy, by all means, please reach out to me. If you want to be a guest on the show and you have some information that I can, we can share. Hey, I'll bring you on, because people are looking for answers at this time. Folk are looking for answers. So we appreciate you. And with that, we about to get out of here. All right. So we get ready to get out of here. Thank you, one, and thank you all. I'm actually trying to figure out exactly what I'm getting ready to say next. But I guess it's going to be this, Grand Sheik. I'm going to talk about the joke there.
Dr. G, inviting you to get your Chokeberry Plus today. It is that amazing berry, high in antioxidant, anti-inflammatory, antiviral properties. It supports and balances the blood pressure, the blood sugar, weight, and cholesterol. Yes, you can get a 2-month supply today by texting CB3L to 302-345-0500. That's CB3L to 302-345-0500. And get on the path to wellness today. You'll be glad you did. Dr. G here to introduce you to a product that I have fallen in love with called GN Rooted Botanical Hair Serum. If you have dryness of the scalp, dandruff, hair loss, graying, just needing your scalp moisturized and needing to have your hair grow, you want to try this product. It is completely natural, vegan, has great, even you can see the herbs in the product. You can see it, it's awesome. It is making my hair grow. A lot of hair growth. Haven't had my hair washed in over a month. Don't have the dryness. Don't have the dandruff or any of the things I normally have. Even the gray is starting to diminish, the little patches of gray. Get yourself some GN Rooted Botanical Hair Growth Serum by Sister Lisa Carr. I'm going to put the link down so you can get some. You're going to love it. Man, woman, boy, girl, try this product. I love it. I love it.
The deeper and deeper I go, I find what it is I should know. 'Cause it's just a matter of time that you'll reawaken your mind. Oh, come with me, come to know and find out what is true. Then you'll know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say I'm reawakening minds. Come to know find out what is truth, yes. Then you know what's in store just for you. No more living a lie. I can look to the sky and say, I'm reawakening my